Welcome to Lucy's Insane Doctor Who Theories podcast.
With me, Lucy.
And
you.
me, Ross.
It's the Lucy's Insane Doctor Who Theories.
They're so insane.
So insane. Lucy's Doctor Who Theories.
Please watch.
Please watch us now. Lucy's Insane Doctor Who Theories.
Get ready for entertainment.
Prepare to be entertained beyond your wildest fucking dreams.
You've watched everything else on YouTube and now you're seeing us.
And now you will watch nothing else.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
Welcome to the show. Oh, welcome to the show.
I think they would have tuned out by now, in all fairness.
No. Alright. So long, folks. Oh, hello, I don't know what part of the podcast we'll put this in.
If we do it at all.
Indeed. Before we start, we need to provide some context. Today we are covering the Matt Smith era.
We are indeed.
This is part 1 of 2, because when I was looking back over the Susan Mega theory,
Which you all enjoyed.
you were largely just speaking references of the classic era.
That is what I am more familiar with.
And we found out that you know all of the RTD stories.
Yes.
And you know Series 5, Matt Smith's first, and you
Yes.
know Capaldi's final series.
Yes.
You know none of the Chibnall stuff.
No.
You know none of Capaldi's first 2 series, and you knew none of Matt Smith's last 2 series.
No. Until recently.
Yes. We have been correcting this error. Takes us a month to get through a series, it seems.
So it does.
And we have now completed the Matt Smith era, so we have earned the right to do
More information on this recent.
Yes, we're doing a Matt Smith special
Yes.
today.
Which I have to confess I've grown to like the Matt Smith era.
I find the Matt Smith era is better dipping into rather than doing a watch through.
So you loathed this last few months?
No, it was good fun to do it with you.
Oh, fair enough. It always is.
And it's an honour to show you these for the first
Yes.
time. So yeah, you've seen all of the Matt Smith era.
I have now, yes.
And before we get into the Matt Smith theories, let's have a look at the theories you came up with while we were watching this.
Lucy calls them theories. I call them more wry observations I had while watching it.
So, Daleks aren't scary, are they, Ross?
They are not. They are very overrated.
How would they become more scary?
If they squash people Super Mario style. Boop, boop, boop.
That would be the best.
It would be like, Daleks, ah!
We absolutely need to see this.
Just once, I would like to see a Dalek just land on someone like, ha ha.
Just once. I want it so many times. I want it every way possible. Anyway, this is Gonal, by the way, for the people watching in the video. Otherwise, I'll cut this bit out. This is Gonal, also known as...
I forget, Armored Owl.
Also Plop 2. Rest in peace, Plop. And also Liz 3, although I can't remember why.
I assume there was a Liz 1 and 2.
I assume it's written with reference to the Queen,
Ah.
but I can't for the life of me remember why. But it's got sequins and, you know, blue and purple. Anyway,
I believe I got that for you for Christmas one year, many years ago.
you also had a theory when we were watching Day of the Doctor. Rose was the interface that showed herself to the War Doctor, and your theory is that that sort of implanted in the War Doctor's subconscious so that Eccleston chose Rose, ultimately.
And that was also what informed his type from going there on.
His type?
As in, a young lady aged between 18 and 22 would be his ideal companion. The Leonardo DiCaprio-ness of it.
Why do you think that informs his type more than just being inclined to go with Rose?
Well, before that, he wasn't known for having particularly young companions.
He was!
But they weren't
They
so
did get younger.
Well, they had people playing young, but they didn't actually have actual young people playing them.
Is that how it was?
Yes, it did. Like, Nyssa wasn't 18, played by an 18-year-old. Ace definitely was not being played by an 18-year-old. And there was also no hint of a romantic attraction between the Doctor and Ace.
There wasn't.
Also, she was meant to be playing 16, and he was like,
Wild.
bare minimum in his 40s.
Yeah, because I need the classic companions to also be skewing pretty young and be women, so that they are basically reflections of Susan because of how Susan enacts her revenge through them, as we covered on the previous podcast.
Yes.
There are things about... I've uncovered more things about Susan. It's almost certain that Susan is, like... we'll get to the Susan stuff.
Yes. Hopefully.
Speaking of, you had a theory that Susan is...
Oh, yes. Susan is the terrible Zodin, the never seen but sometimes discussed terrible Zodin.
Yes. Mentioned like twice in the classic era, never seen, and just... what was the quote about them? Just like...
they don't make villains like her anymore.
And who is Zodin? It can only be Susan.
She is mentioned in several books, and they do an actual origin story on Zodin, but we don't go into that.
Yeah. Books are fan fiction. These theories are far more close to actually being canon.
Are they really?
Yes. Alright, and finally, we were just watching Deep Breath, and you were suggesting that rather than the obvious interpretation that Vastra is the dominant one and Jenny is the submissive one, you suggested...
in the bedroom, it's the other way around.
Which I think is absolutely what must be the case.
As it so often is in real life. From what I'm given to understand, the more dominant person in real life tends to want to be submissive in certain situations.
Yeah.
Like dominatrixes, their primary customers tend to be like CEOs and senior politicians, allegedly.
So, you know when Vastra riles up Clara and she's like, ooh, I always wondered what you were like when you were angry, and Jenny's like, hey, we're married. That's because Vastra like riles up Jenny in a way that like Jenny will take it out on her in the bedroom.
So you've fully adopted my on-the-fly theory.
Absolutely. Like, there was something else that I can't remember. I wonder if I have it noted down.
I think they did have an energy of Vastra was casting around to maybe make it a throuple, but that was...
So, Vastra like mentions that, like, you know, for appearances to the outside world, Jenny is her maid.
Yes.
And Jenny's like, doesn't really make sense why I'm making you tea right now, does it? And like, you know, I think that just adds into the whole like Vastra gets Jenny to do stuff so that when they're in the bedroom, Jenny gets to take it out on her. Like all of the stuff, like when Vastra's meant to be painting Jenny, and then it turns out she's not. She's just trying to piss off Jenny in a way that will, yeah, that's how it is. I fully believe it. I think you have an excellent theory there.
You heard it here first, folks.
Bravo.
I'm willing to bet there is some interesting fan art depicting what I've just said.
So
that's your task. Google that.
Alright, moving on to the actual podcast about the Matt Smith era.
Oh, yes.
I have a note on my phone just saying that it will be the ultimate culmination of this this podcast when you find one of my theories more convincing than I do.
I remember you saying this, yes.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I do find the Kamelion cupboard very convincing.
Me too. And I have more to say about that.
Oh.
But we're going to have additions to theories previously discussed put at the end of each podcast.
Okay.
By God, the theories have been developed. So, my first theory is Moffat is a robot controlled by Russell T Davies.
You'll have to elaborate on that one.
Well, I've got a note saying not yet because you haven't seen enough. Cause
okay.
It covers the whole Moffat era. Every time there's a robot that appears, Moffat's trying to, or RTD is trying to say something.
I assume you mean this literally.
Yes.
Okay. Not metaphorically.
No.
Okay.
Alright, anyway, so we can't cover that right now, but what we can cover is that Matt Smith's Doctor is a trans girl.
Very much on your own on this one?
There's a lot of notes on this, my friends. So...
Very much on your own on this one.
When in his regeneration scene, as soon as we see Matt Smith...
Okay, is this the famous fish fingers and custards scenario?
No, this is... why would that make him a trans girl? Please
well, I don't
elaborate.
know. That's all I associate with his... her regeneration.
So, when in her regeneration scene, in the Russell T Davies era...
Yes.
She says, "I'm a girl," when she regenerates, and she kind of says it in shock, and then says no after that, but it kind of in disbelief. Basically, my theory is Eccleston was Eggleston, as in Eccleston was the egg that got cracked. Tennant was the trans girl and fully expected her next regeneration to be a cis woman.
Right.
And instead, that's why they were instantly I'm a girl, and they're oh fuck, I'm not a sissy.
Is that really what I can't recall?
Yeah, they're very disappointed. I wonder if I have a clip. We can probably look it up.
I'm a girl. No. I'm not a girl.
Well, we've just seen the clip, which I remain unconvinced by.
Yes, we have just seen the clip mere moments ago.
We did, yes, and hopefully you saw it as well. And agree with me that Lucy's talking out of her arse.
So, after she checks her facial features, she says, "I'm a girl," just by checking the hair, which isn't even that long. So yeah, I think Eccleston...
No.
It went from Eccleston, the egg, Eggleston, to Tennant, who was a trans girl, which...
Never brought up once.
Never brought up that Tennant's a trans girl.
You've never mentioned this to me before.
No, it's a different... It's listed as a different theory, but you want evidence for Tennant being a fucking trans girl?
I believe I demand evidence.
So, in School Reunion...
Yes.
Tennant says, "I'm no dinner lady, and I don't often say that." Not the strongest evidence, but
No.
it's just a bit of evidence towards I'm no XYZ lady.
Doesn't he specifically say, "I'm not a dinner lady," as in, I'm not a lady?
Yeah, and the point being, he says, "I don't often say that."
Yes.
Which I think hints towards him being her.
I think I'll need a lot more convincing.
Yeah, no, that's digging around. That's digging. But there's other shit, Fear Her, when he says, "Look at the hairs on the back of my manly, hairy hand."
Oh, yes, I remember you saying this.
100% that is how I used to talk about myself before I realised I was trans. I just joked about being manly. I would just be yeah, look at the hairs on the back of my manly, hairy hands, as if it's the most ridiculous thing ever that I could be seen as manly. So personally, I consider that very strong evidence. Intense trans girl vibes.
I'm happy you believe it.
All right.
I don't think I or the listening public are convinced.
And then in Fear Her, later on,
universally loved by everyone,
Rose says to a cat, "Aren't you a beautiful boy?"
Oh, yes.
And Doc says, "Thanks, I've been experimenting with backcombing." And it's like, oh, when he realizes that she's talking to a cat. So my theory here is that he looks really unhappy when he realizes Rose was talking to a cat. He doesn't even try to convince Rose that he's a she, because he knows that this is Turf Island. So Rose is probably a turf. Let's be honest.
I don't think that Rose would be a turf, though. Now you say that, did react with some shock and consternation when Cassandra said, "Back when I was a little boy."
Yeah, I probably acted fucking repulsed about that.
More surprised, I don't remember being... But bear in mind, this was 2005 when that came out, so times have moved on somewhat.
Yeah, she's probably gotten more tough over time.
Well, she was married to Lawrence Fox in real life, Billy Piper.
Who's Lawrence Fox?
A very controversial figure, shall we say. He was kicked off GB News for being a bit too right-wing, and he calls anyone who disagrees with him a pedophile.
Ah, the Glenna approach.
Yes. I believe they're friends.
Alright, so basically he sort of understands that when she says, "Aren't you a beautiful boy?" the boy part is inevitable. He just kind of glazes over that because, he gets misgendered all the time. But I think because "Aren't you a beautiful boy?" it has the word beautiful, he gets gender euphoria from being called beautiful. And when he's like, "Yeah, I've been experimenting with backcombing implies a kind of dykey vibe. So Tennant's doctor is a girl, but a dykey girl, a sort of bitch girl, Backcombing.
Yeah.
Butch.
Though when I think of Tennant, I don't think of butch, but I suppose for a girl would be rather butch.
Yeah, I mean, experimenting with it, I don't know how butch Tennant is, but I feel like that, she's definitely dabbled with that kind of thing. I dabble with being butch, even if it's not really my, one of my main genders.
Okay.
Part of my gender is butch, even if I have many more prominent ones.
Okay.
Anyway, whenever I think of Tennant being a trans girl, you know what I think of? I think of the fires of Pompeii.
I don't think I've ever actually seen that episode.
What, the Donna one?
No. If I did, I've very much forgotten it.
Okay, so basically, Donna's about to be sacrificed by a cult, and the doctor turns up, and they're like, "No men are allowed in the temple," and he's just like, "Oh, that's alright, just us girls." Now explain that, Ross. How is that in any way not the most trans thing you've ever heard?
Fair enough, that's a compelling argument. Or maybe it's like Strax can't actually tell the difference.
So, can you see why I sort of Eggleston was the egg that was cracking, and then Tennant was the full, Tennant was when the egg was cracked, fully expecting to regenerate into an actual cis woman after, being a trans girl. You would expect that after regeneration,
I've never regenerated, so I wouldn't know.
That's why Matt Smith is like, "I'm a girl!" and then is really disappointed when he feels the Adam apple, as if fuck, I'm still a trans girl. That's why Matt Smith's exclaiming that he's a girl is so compelling, because of the gender that came before. The amount of evidence I have for Eccleston being an egg is also compelling, let's just say. Alright, so moving on to...
Moving swiftly on.
Moving into the library two-parter. He is referred to as a pretty boy, and he fails to connect that with himself, because River says, "Pretty boy with me." And he questions pretty. And my notes here is that I think he's a butch trans girl, possibly non-binary, not femme though. Either that, or he just doesn't realise his femness about himself yet. Pretty. He's like, "Am I pretty?"
Well, no, it's not a thing most men are called in day-to-day life.
Yeah, but also I think given the evidence, like if we're trying to work out what kind of trans girl Tennant is, this really hones it into, like, you call someone who's femme pretty.
Yeah.
You'd call someone who's butch, I don't know, something else, like...
Handsome.
Dunno. Guess it depends what they like.
No.
My gender skews more girly, so I like femme, so I understand how to do compliments in that direction a lot better. And finally, the unicorn and the wasp. Agatha Crispy.
Agatha Crispy, is that breakfast cereal?
Agatha Crispy says, "How like a man to have fun while there is disaster all around him." And Tennant looks like he wants to correct her misgendering, but can't because of the time period, or because he can't be fucked.
Mm. Or maybe because he's an alien and that sort of thing doesn't really apply to him. That just blow a hole in your theory there.
What? No, I think the Doctor does have an alien gender, and being gendered as a man is actually a part of the Doctor's gender, but it is not the totality of the Doctor's gender. So people gendering the Doctor as a man so much basically represses the Doctor's more girly aspects of his gender, which is why the Doctor has such a pull towards the parts of his gender that are more unexpressed. So it could be that the Doctor isn't as girly as I've been suggesting, but I think because of humans' binary, or British, Western, whatever, binary conception of gender.
Oh.
So yeah,
Yes.
maybe the Doctor isn't just binary trans girl. Why would that make how would that even make sense for an alien to have?
Well, yes, I'd say it would be more if the very concept of gender didn't really apply due to the fact alien.
Yeah, no, I have a whole theory that we will cover at some point one day.
I was thinking in the same way, like if you ever read the Anne Rice novels, when you become a vampire, the concept of male and female and gay and straight don't really mean anything to you anymore.
Oh, nice.
I've never seen the TV show, so I can't venture comment. But
to give you a glimpse of my theory about Time Lord gender, which I've been getting mostly from Troughton and Hartnell, my theory is that gender for Time Lords is more connected to roles, which is why they try on different hats a bunch, because it's like trying on different genders.
Okay, yes, or personas.
Yeah.
Much like in Robots, when Tom Baker tries the different costumes, many of which are very inappropriate.
Yeah, they're all just different facets of Tom Baker's gender. That's a good point. I'd love to make a note of that when I'm looking back on this, and I can make a few notes.
Remember that, Lucy, when you're looking back.
Anyway, so I feel I've established fairly well. Tennant, trans girl. Boom. So
definitively, then.
So that's why we can be like, okay, she was expecting to be a cis woman when she regenerated into Matt Smith, and then was like, I'm a girl, and then felt the atoms off, and it's like, fuck, trans one though. God damn it. So, and then in the 11th Hour, the very next episode, at the climax, the Doctor's like, "Who man?" And it absolutely falls flat, and it's it's played as if it falls flat. They're like, "Oh, I'm never doing that again."
What is the context of the Doctor saying "Who man"?
It's like, "Oh, I saved the day. I did all this. Bish bash bosh. Who man?" And it's like, "Oh, that's rubbish. I'm never doing that again." So that's the kind of context it had. And the way it falls flat is exactly how it would fall flat if a trans girl said that, pre-transition.
Yes.
Though
I was just having a moment of, who says "Who da man" anymore? No one says "Who da man" anymore. Go share, time passes.
Yeah.
A bit like people saying, "Oh, that was on fleek." Who uses that expression anymore?
So it's not like the strongest evidence, but I think it contributes to the suggestion that the Doctor is a trans girl as Matt Smith. Now,
I remain unconvinced, it has to be said.
It conveys very effectively how it feels to wear the wrong gender pre-transition. I very much relate to it personally.
Fair enough then.
Alright, then in Flesh and Stone. Right, so in Flesh and Stone, extra scene? Oh, okay, so this is maybe before or after the Time of the Angels Flesh and Stone two-parter?
Is that the one with the soldier monks?
Yeah, it's like, this is one of the mini-sodes.
Are mini-sodes literally canonical? Because some of them are...
Yeah, I find the canonicity dubious, but also, like, there's video footage of it, so, like, there's absolute proof that they happened, in fairness.
But there's also that one with the differing stories for the lighting of the Olympic torch.
I have a note of that.
Yes, I remember you showing it.
Because there's the mini-sode called Good as Gold, where someone who's carrying the Olympic torch in the Olympic Stadium runs into the TARDIS and they are not Tennant. How did that happen? I don't know, but I've got a question mark on it and I'll work it out one day.
Okay.
I have not worked it out yet, though. But I'm sure give me enough time and enough... Yeah, I'm sure I can incorporate it into
Enough
a mega
rope,
theory. What?
Enough rope, you'll tie yourself in knots.
Indeed. Anyway, so in the extra scene, Amy calls the Doctor a bloke, and he's very resistant to that. He's like, I am not a typical bloke. And Amy later says, you are a bloke, and the Doctor responds, I'm the Doctor. So I've got a note saying perhaps non-binary, but as we've already discussed, basically, you know, the Doctor is ultimately a non-binary being. How can an alien be a binary?
Or maybe that was a comment on the Doctor's classism. I'm not a bloke, I am a gentleman.
No, it's absolutely a gender thing.
Okay. So, because it doesn't conform.
Well, I mean, that does conform to a different theory of mine, which is that the Doctor wants to subjugate the working classes.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm accumulating evidence for this. I love that you think it's already true. This bodes well. It's one of my favourite theories. Anyway, so when the Doctor says, you know, she says, you are a bloke, and he's like, I'm the Doctor. So he's perhaps non-binary or just can't be fucked with explaining their gender to someone from Turf Island. Amy's probably a TERF by this point already. Oh, maybe she got saved from that because she went back in time. And anyway, she, not long after that, says, you are a bloke and you don't know it. And if that doesn't sound like a TERF saying to a trans woman, you are a bloke and you don't know it, I don't know what does.
So you're saying Amy is J.K. Rowling?
Proto J.K. Rowling.
She gave J.K. Rowling the idea.
She was
We heard it
J.K.
here
Rowling
first.
before J.K. Rowling found her calling.
Or the mask dropped.
I suspect J.K. Rowling did not have any feelings about trans people for quite a long... Like, at this stage in time, I don't think trans people occurred to her as even existing, in my opinion.
Probably not. I don't know. I'm not intimately familiar with J.K. Rowling and her works.
Alright, then the Christmas special, Christmas Carol.
Oh, yes.
You've got a theory about the Christmas Carol, don't you?
Well, I have a theory. Well, not so much a theory, but more of an idea of how it could have been shortened. There's what happens in the episode, like, goes through the whole story of, going back in the past to make the Ebenezer Scrooge character a better man. My theory could have been shortened down was, or you could have just cut his hand off.
The Strax approach.
The Strax approach. I was like, even if it doesn't work, like it needs to be attached to the other person, I'm sure that would give him motivation to use his other hand to... I know Tennant would have probably just threatened to cut his hand off.
No second hands, that sort of...
After the Sycorax incident.
And you've suggested that perhaps if we did cosplay, you would be Strax.
I would like to do Strax, yes.
I would be Jenny, of course.
Yes.
and we will find our Vastra.
Though the hair does lend towards Vastra, I would say.
The hair changes.
Yeah, true.
I'm transitioning my hair. So if you are a Vastra, please contact us on whatever. Anyway, so in that
Mr. Black.
Mr. Black. So let's see. Do we have time? Yeah, right. In that episode, the Doctor says, "Dangerous? Come on, we're boys." And you know what boys say in the face of danger? Mummy. But like the Doctor's already like established as lying in that story when he's like, "Oh look, I'm a universally recognized adult," and it's like, "Oh, it's just a bunch of wiggly lines." So like and the Doctor's like, "Shit, a lie too big." So the fact that like I just feel like the Doctor's playing a bit fast and loose with being boys. Like, you know, like he says to Kid Kazran, like, "Oh, what do we do? Let's be boys, talk about girls and stuff." But that's fun, right? That's what boys do. Does that really sound like someone who's a guy?
That all the time. I can remember when I was a boy, that's all we did, talk about girls and boobs and things.
It's absolutely played as a sort of, I am not in touch with whatever being a boy is. So yeah, I think he's just pretending to be a dude for the ease of interaction. Next. Alright, now our sponsors, Coca-Cola.
Let's not say that, they might sue us. I think we're going to get sued by J.K. Rowling.
What, she's going to be like, "Oh my god, you call me a tough? I have been nothing but understanding towards trans women."
Fair enough, yes. I think in all fairness,
you
yes.
are besmirching my image as an upstanding trans, non-phobic member of society.
Fair. Well known.
I retract all my donations to all the toughs and stuff. Alright, anyway.
Back to the actual non-slanderous.
Back on topic. So, in The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, yes.
The Doctor is a dude and therefore is weak, so saith the forest. The Doctor seems to imply it needs a mum, which kind of reduces women to wombs. So basically not a trans womb. And but what I'm trying to say is that just because the episode acts like, you know, the Doctor's a man and therefore cannot take the load.
Well, I've seen some videos.
It's because she doesn't have a womb. So it's not about gender, it's about womb.
Womanhood, as you said.
Yeah. And also, and this is powerful. This is a powerful bit of logic here.
Is it?
Yeah. He, like, happy cries at the end. And you know what he calls it?
I don't recall.
Humany womany.
Does he?
Or he says humany womany.
Oh.
So yeah, he calls his happy crying at the end humany womany. Yeah, fucking take that, any doubters of the Doctor.
I think I'm still doubting Thomas on this one. I'll have to stick my fingers right in the wounds.
Right. Next, in Hyde,
yes,
episode 10 of season 7, the Doctor and the guy are looking at a photo of the Doctor's face in the foreground with a ghost in the background. And the dude says, "Who do you think she is?" And the Doc says, "Not what I thought she'd be." And the dude says, "What did you think she'd be?" And the Doc says, "Fun, because his life is so angsty." You know, he's just out to have a fun time, but he's just had such an angsty time of it. So I think, you know, the guy's obviously talking about the ghost.
Yeah.
Doctor's is just talking about herself. Who do you think she is? Not what I thought she'd be. What did you think she'd be? Fun. Like, you know, some would say this is the most flimsy evidence ever conceived.
I would say this is among the most poppiest of the poppycock bits of evidence you have, and you have much that is...
Well, I'm feeling very cocky about this evidence. I'm not. It's flimsy as fuck, but it's a photo with the Doctor in it. The Doctor, there's only she pronouns flying around everywhere. I love it. Humany womany. Okay,
I don't think even you believe your own theory at this stage.
No, look. They're spurious as fuck. It's not evidence, really. Let's be honest. But
we both agree on that. Yes.
I feel like I've already established enough evidence that some of this stuff doesn't need to be strong evidence at all. I've already proved it. Now, moving on. The next episode, Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
Oh yes, a disappointing episode. It has to be said, in my opinion.
That's because of the name.
Yes, it does promise a lot.
If it was named something else, everyone would just be grateful for what we get rather than what we don't get.
True. I was expecting more epicness in the TARDIS.
So,
on a BBC budget.
The Doctor sets the controls of the TARDIS to basic, and Clara asks, "'Cause I'm a girl?" And Matt Smith says no, and then looks at her and then breaks into a ha 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 smile. And I think it is because he is repressing his transness, and him imagining being a girl excites him, but knows his companions are probably transphobic, so stays closeted. I don't know, it's a weird one. I just let me have the Doctor not being a fucking misogynist, being like, yeah, it's because you're a girl. Just let me have this, okay? He's just like, yeah.
I will let you have this.
Thank you. I'm not defending this. I don't think it's believable, but it's conceivable.
Everything's... If you can think of it, it's conceivable, Lucy.
Yes, let's just hang on to that. Alright. Moving on to some more powerful evidence. Time of the Doctor. I can't remember when he says that. It's probably close to when he's regenerating. He says, "I'm a tough old bird."
Yes.
Now, obviously, bird is how you refer to women.
Me specifically, or people in... Because I don't think I've ever...
It's terminology that refers to women, doesn't it?
Not so much these days, but I imagine they do.
Okay, well, when I was in school, bird was girl bird. People said that.
We didn't say that in my school.
Yeah. I grew up in Glasgow.
Oh, yes. Can't you tell from the accent?
So, next. Capaldi's final series.
Yes.
You know the one in Scotland, The Eaters of Light?
Yes, I remember enjoying it.
So, the Doctor says they're a former Vestal Virgin, which means he used to be a priest... A priestess.
Yeah.
You must have told me this.
Yes, I did,
because you're the history guy.
Yes, the Vestal Virgin, yes.
So, the Doctor says they're a former Vestal Virgin, which means he used to be a priestess, and it's like Roman
yes, it
thing.
is.
So, my theory is that the Doctor lived with Rory for quite a while to keep Rory company. Like, when Rory's guarding the Pandorica. Like, you know how, like, the Doctor in the next series at the start is like, oh yeah, it's been like hundreds of years for me since he last saw me.
Yes.
That's because the Doctor was keeping Rory company as a Vestal Virgin, and therefore as basically being a woman, like recognized as a woman in society. Proper transition.
Okay.
With Rory. Keeping Rory company. Strong evidence, right?
Well, that I would say is the most compelling evidence you've put forth so far.
Yeah. Alright. Let's have a look. Oh, I've said more about it. I've just made a note of Tennant was only alive for around 5 years or something, so wouldn't have had time for the 30-year vow of celibacy.
Yes.
Tell us about the 30-year vow of celibacy, because I didn't come up with that.
Yes, in being a Vestal Virgin, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this isn't my area, but a Vestal Virgin's career lasted 30 years, 10 years training to be a Vestal Virgin, 10 years essentially doing the job, then the last 10 years training someone else to be a Vestal Virgin. Theoretically, they were supposed to be celibate, but I imagine there was extracurricular activity going on.
Love it. So, my last two bits of evidence. Alright, this is one you haven't encountered. It's in Jodie's first episodes, which you've not seen. She says, "It's been a long time since I bought women's clothes."
Mm.
So, I mean, when is that, if not when? Matt Smith, probably as the Vestal Virgin, to be honest. And then in the 4th episode of Jodie's era, which again is spoilery for you, but this isn't a spoiler, Jodie just whips out random anecdotes, and she says, I used to be a sister in an aqua hospital. It actually turned out to be a training camp for the Quiston calcium assassins. Point being, she was a sister in an aqua hospital, and that's presumably before being Jodie, and therefore not just when being a Vestal virgin or whatever, but also other points. So I presume Matt Smith easily could have been Tennant, who knows? But I think Matt Smith was clearly wearing it very openly when he had the opportunity. So, Matt Smith is a trans girl. Believability rating, gimme.
Out of 10?
No, out of 100.
Out of 100. I'll go, because you wish it to be so.
I do. I know it to be so.
Well, let's say I'll give it a 90% then.
Me too. I give it a 90%.
You heard it here.
Shake on it.
Well, it is now officially canon.
You are an absolute...
Contact the TARDIS wiki.
You're an absolute fool if you think that Matt Smith is not a trans girl. There's so much evidence. Honestly, 90% is a conservative estimate. Although I feel for you it's the opposite. Point being, we both agree. Wow, we're not getting very far through these, are we?
No.
That's fine. That's good for the podcast.
We have all the time in the world until we don't.
Been talking a lot about gender. Alright, I've got a thing about... Right, this one's a weird one. Like, you know how in the 11th Hour, basically there's a duck pond, and the Doctor's like, hey, why aren't there any ducks in the duck pond? It's like, I don't know, do ducks always have to be where ponds are? Anyway,
True.
And the Doctor, I think, at some points in the series is like, of course, the crack ate the ducks up. It's like, what are you talking about? The crack wasn't anywhere near the ducks. Was Amy being hounded by ducks, and one of them flew into her room and went into the crack, and the others followed? Nonsense. Anyway, you know the fuel that gets spilled in Bill's first episode?
The sentient fuel.
Yeah. I believe that fuel is, you know how the Silence were building a TARDIS that appeared in the lodger?
Yes.
So...
I always got the impression it was just left behind. It wasn't done there deliberately.
It just kind of got abandoned. But I think somehow basically it sort of crashed and it spilt a bunch of stuff. I think the duck pond was the fuel.
All right.
And, I tried to work out the map for it, because if it started in Colchester, which is where the lodger is, and then it goes, and then it drops off some of its fuel in Gloucestershire. Was it Gloucester?
I believe Gloucester's a town and Gloucestershire's a county.
I think it's Gloucester then. Anyway, Gloucester is where Ledsworth, which is a made-up place where Amy and Rory live. That's where it's supposed to be, and that's a bit above Bristol. I think there was a sort of zigzaggy sort of path from Colchester to Gloucester to Bristol. Bristol is where Bill is. There is a sort of zigzaggy path. I can't remember exactly what it is, but like a time machine that is sort of, haphazardly crashing around. That's a fairly precise line, given what an out of time and space object it is.
Yes.
So I think it could have crashed in a way that sort of it laid the fuel there and ended up where Bill was. I don't know. I think it's easily conceivable that the duck pond was the time traveling goo. And what does the time traveling goo need?
A navigator or a pilot?
So, pilot acquired. Shut. Who was the pilot for the duck pond with no ducks?
Were the ducks themselves the pilots?
Yes.
So they flew south for the winter?
what if the ducks just kind of wanted to be there anyway? Like, I came up with this last night. I just had all these questions. I was like, you know what? I need to fill out this theory and work it out. So I wrote down, I think the pilot it required was a duck who took its friends with it.
And had a series of wacky adventures.
And I was like, but then why hasn't the fuel moved? Do ducks just like to be? Are they just having a gay old time being timelessly ponding about? And that's all I have for that. But
I think this theory needs a lot more work.
Maybe, but I think the theory that the Doctor had, that the crack ate them up, needs even more work. And
I think that's a bit more likely, I'd say.
What, the crack ate up the ducks?
Yes.
Why were the ducks anywhere near the crack?
Well, because they were...
They were angry ducks that were attacking Amy.
Yes. Ducks, as we've witnessed with our own eyes, can be a bit angry. We have seen anger... Because, in my opinion, swans are just big ducks. They can be quite notoriously angry.
You're speaking nonsense. Right, give me a believability rating for the crack eating the ducks up.
9 out of 10.
I'll give it a 1 out of 10. Now, give me a believability rating for the ducks becoming the pilots and passengers of the pilot of Fuel and just chilling.
I'll give that a 1 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 70%. Alright, moving on.
Swiftly.
Alright, let's have a think about this. In the 11th hour... God, we're just talking about like stories that aren't even part of the stuff that I caught you up on. We could have done a whole Series 5 thing. Anyway, so the Atraxi, that's the I spacecraft in the 11th hour. They have footage from the parallel world. Like, you know when they show the Doctor's like, hey, look me up, see if this world's defended, and they play a bunch of footage.
Oh, yes.
One of them's like, I think it's like the Cybermen in the parallel world, whatever it is, it's from the parallel world. How do they have that footage?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, and it needs an answer. So, I have two theories for why, well, two possible explanations. Because, they play footage of the Cybermen from the parallel world. So, did we shift to the parallel world at some point?
Well, our universe, or...
Like, the whole of Doctor Who, did it at some point just suddenly we're back in the parallel world?
That's a good question, now you mention it.
Honestly, I don't think we are, but in these notes it's like...
As I recall, travelling to the parallel dimension, isn't that mind-numbingly dangerous?
Hey, Rose managed it in like
but couldn't come back.
When Davros was blowing shit up.
Mm. But didn't they set up the whole thing that they can never come back because of,
yeah, like...
That's why they've got the human Doctor.
Yeah, I've got a note here saying, we must have moved to the parallel world. This is why Torchwood and all the spin-offs stopped. This is why Amy forgot about the Dalek invasion. Honestly, I don't believe this. I just don't believe it that they moved to the parallel world, because I imagine they have footage that was from our world as well, before the parallel world. So I don't think that this is I think that's... I'm going to give it let's give it a 1% chance. No, let's give it 5% chance that we are actually in the parallel world.
I'll give it less. I'll give it maybe 2%.
Yeah, right. I'll agree with you with that.
Alright.
Alright, okay. So my actual theory is that Doctor Who is canonically a TV show that is available and broadcast across the universe. That's how aliens have footage from Doctor Who. The Doctor's adventures are primarily done in the name of viewing figures. This is why the Earth keeps getting invaded, because it's popularized by the TV show. And all the aliens are like, yay, we're going to that place on our favorite TV show.
So you're saying it's like a TikTok trend, is invading Earth?
Doctor Who is popular in the universe, just like it is in our world. Like, you know, and aliens just go there because it's like, oh my god, I've seen this place, let's go there, let's conquer it, this is going to be great.
But shouldn't they learn from watching this show that they never win?
Hey, I mean, maybe they just do it for the excitement of of being part of the show, you know? You put on a good enough show, you get to be the show.
So their whole philosophy is YOLO. Does anyone even still say YOLO anymore? It feels so old.
Yeah, no, we all say YOLO, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I actually have a lot more ideas on like why on Doctor Who being an in-universe thing, but for this theory at least, I think I've explained it enough. How do you think about that? What's the convincingness? The Atraxi have parallel world footage. How do they have that? Doctor Who is a show that is put out there in the universe. The Doctor does it.
I would say slightly more likely as a continuity error, but in
universe, how does it make sense? Parallel world footage. I mean, come on.
Maybe it's some kind of psychic bleed, and they're just getting it from the Doctor's memory.
Ah, yeah, I guess. Or like pillaging like the TARDIS's memory of it.
Or Sutek on the back's memory of it.
Okay. Alright. I have more evidence about this theory, but I need to collate it because I have so many different theories about like how much. I've got various theories like how Doctor Who is actually exists in the real world, etc. I need to pass it all. Right, what are we saying? Atraxi having parallel world footage. They siphoned it from the Doctor's brain. I think that's. Oh, that's good.
There you go. I just shot that theory full of holes.
You know what? I give that 70%, but I also give my own theory 70%. What about you?
I say my theory is a bit more likely.
How much?
90%.
And my theory?
I still say about 2. No, I'd say because I want it to be true, I'd say maybe 40%.
Fair enough. Okay, the final theory before we do catching up on additions to theories we've already mentioned in previous episodes. So, the Doctor's browser history.
The joke that gets overused, in my opinion.
So, in your opinion, what is the Doctor's browser history?
If we're going by the Kamelion theory, I suspect he looks up some very filthy alien porn that we don't even understand the meaning of.
I've got a better theory.
Okay.
But shall we give ourselves a bit of a ranking of that theory first? Out of 100. I mean, it's very believable the way they act. It's always like that. Sure, whatever. Sure, I'd say
90%.
Yeah, 90%. It's a very believable theory.
Yes.
I just have a more believable one.
Well, I can't even conceive of a more believable one.
Oh, wait till you find out. Okay, so what is the Doctor's browser history? Something set up to be easy access but must be kept secret. Like, you know how the Doctor has like sonic sunglasses?
Yes.
So it must be so easy for people to like ridiculously easy for anyone who wears his shades to access it. Like Osgood accesses it, and she's just like, whoa. And the Doctor's always like, don't look at my browser history. Sure, Moffat make funny jokes, sex, ha ha ha, but no, it's so much more dark than that.
How could it be more dark than vile alien porn?
What the Doctor's doing... Right, okay, so you know in Series 10, you've got the killing planets of all the killers, and they're gonna kill the Master.
Okay. Yes, I remember, yes.
And the Doctor basically scares them all off by being like, alright, I'm the Doctor, look me up in the Fatality Index. And...
Which is extensive.
Yeah, and like, the racking up of just, you hear the counter keep going up and they all start running away, and it's like, we never hear it stop racking up. Like, Doctor has killed so many.
Yes.
Now, we know that the Doctor erased themselves from every database in the universe, right?
Yes.
So if they want to be able to use basically that, like, if they want to be like, look me up and get people to run away, they need to... They've been deleted from the fatality index, so they need to rack up the numbers really fucking quick, you know?
So they've done a lot of killing since their erasure, or
Yeah, the Doctor's been genociding all over the place. The Doctor...
just random planet of the fluffy bunny people is like, kill them all!
The Doctor's been living in darker hues every day, as the Great Intelligence says. So, yeah, and it's only Matt Smith and Capaldi who are anxious about their internet history. Matt Smith started wielding the intergalactic database that includes the fatality index, and once he deleted himself, he needed to rack them up again. Maybe he was trying to keep it down at first, but clearly that took a darker turn. Right. So, in Twice Upon a Time, the final browser history joke of Doctor Who, thank fuck, is made as the first Doctor has the sonic sunglasses on.
Oh, yes.
And asks, what's browser history? And Capaldi grabs them away with an "oh shit" expression. Considering we just came away from the scene where Hartnell gets told about the Doctor of War and all the scary names the Doctor gets, you know, and he's like, oh, I don't know who you are, and Testimony's like, he's the butcher of the bone fields and all that kind of thing. Like, you know, at that point, he absolutely doesn't need to find out that he is genuinely, like, the worst killer in the universe, who would terrify the Killing Planet people.
Objectively, the Doctor is the worst villain in the whole of Doctor Who.
Yeah. But he also saves the universe, so there's that. So yeah, when Hartnell's questioning what kind of monster he will become, like, it's the perfect way to tie up this running gag. Like, anyway, the one time Matt Smith references browser history, according to this, wow, is that really a Capaldi thing mostly?
Yep.
Huh. He references browser history in his first episode to Jeff, and he's like telling Jeff to delete his own browser history, but my notes here are like, he was clearly checking the fatality index, like the Doctor when he was on the laptop. After all, he needs it to be high enough by the end of the episode for him to be able to be like, look me up. So he was just checking that was like high enough. He needs it to be high enough by the end of the episode, and this is one of the first things he does when shit gets real, I think. The Atraxis themselves access the fatality index. So that's my theory about that. And then, in the name of the Doctor, the Great Intelligence claims he is, and I quote, the slaughterer of 10 billion. He has been fucking busy. You gotta be to strike fear in the heart of the people from the Killing Planet. This is my theory then.
Given the fact he commits genocide fairly regularly, 10 billion's a relatively small number.
Yeah, well, you know, he was still working on racking up his number at that point, wasn't he? He'd only recently deleted himself from every database in the universe, and he had got to work already. 10 billion is a lot, considering how recently that was. Am I not right?
Relatively, yes, it is.
So by the time they get to Twice Upon a Time, if Hartnell really looked up what the browser history was, if he really found out what the Doctor had done, he would have chosen not to regenerate. He would have chosen death over becoming
the worst monster in all of history.
Yeah. So that's my browser history thing. That's why browser history is such a central joke. It's not a joke, is it? It's a really dark thing. When Osgood like tries on the glasses and Doctor's like, don't look at my browser history, and she's like, whoa. You know that's because she sees how much death
and darkness and
like
slaughter of innocent fluffy bunny people.
I give this theory let's give it a 98% probability rating. There's like, why else is the Doctor like, don't look at my browser history? Is Capaldi really uniquely the Doctor who is just looking up fucked up porn, especially when the Doctor, and we will move on to this in a moment, the Kamelion fairy, what happens when the Doctor loses the Kamelion? The Doctor starts a sexual relationship with the TARDIS. The Doctor does not need messed up internet stuff. I believe the Doctor is fully satisfied with the TARDIS. Anyway, what would you rate the browser history fairy?
Now you've explained it, it does sound like it could be credible. Or maybe that is the fucked up porn that the Doctor's been watching.
What, just him
watching his kill
fucking people?
Just watching his kill counts, and he's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, just jacking up to that.
The Doctor is much darker than we thought.
10 billion? Oh yeah.
That's just Tuesday for me.
Alright, so give me a rating out of 100.
I'll say 75%.
And finally, we will now look back on fairies that we have touched on in the past and speak of...
back to the Susan theory.
We'll get there. Let's go to Kamelion first.
Oh yes,
since we just touched on that. So
poor Kamelion, who I think it's fair to say has had a terrible existence.
So, our previous theory was that Kamelion, the shape...
Your theory, which
you got convinced by it.
I wish it to be so.
So, the shape-shifting companion who just... robot companion who just appears in one episode, becomes a companion, disappears for ages, and then his final episode is his last episode, as if the Doctor's been keeping this shape-changing robot in the fuck cupboard.
Yes.
Very convincing theory. No quibbles about that, really. It has expanded.
Oh.
So, as I've already said, I think the Doctor has initiated a sexual relationship with the TARDIS. If you look to the Doctor's wife.
Oh yes, yeah.
And she's like, he's like, what do I call you? And she's like, I think you call me sexy. And he's like, only when we're alone. Now, this is because what after losing Kamelion?
When he started rubbing himself against the console.
The TARDIS can generate anything, as we find out in the journey to the centre of the TARDIS.
True.
Anything. The TARDIS is the ultimate pleasure machine. And, the Doctor having a, relationship with the TARDIS like that, I think, allows the Doctor not to feel like he needs to violate another Kamelion. So there's that evidence. Speaking of Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, you know how there's burned up versions of all the characters wandering around the TARDIS trying to kill them?
Yeah.
For some reason? Now, the only reason they'd really want to kill them that I can think of, because they don't really explain it in the episodes, but I can explain it here. They found, in a deleted scene, the fuck cupboard. Or a fuck cupboard. Now, the Doctor does not want people to discover the sex
dirty
cupboard.
Secret of the fuck cupboard.
So, I think that it had defences, and it burnt everyone who looked into it to a crisp.
So these are companions we didn't know about who got burnt to a crisp?
No, these are the characters who were going to in the episode.
The brothers.
The brothers and Clara, they all saw into this cupboard, got burnt by its defences, and were like, oh god, I can't see this. If this is what life is, this is wrong. I cannot count. We need to destroy this.
But if Kamelion is dead, isn't the fuck cupboard just empty? But does it have horrific stenches and stains in there now?
Who knows what is in the Doctor's fuck cupboard with the TARDIS? I imagine there's a lot of different cupboards with a lot of nasty shit. Yeah, so I think just everyone who's seen in there is like, oh god, oh god, oh god. Life is not acceptable that the universe is if they were able to end the universe at that point acting in judgment upon it, they would have. But as it happens, they only had access to killing the people they found around the TARDIS.
Or maybe, remember that episode, there's the space whale, and it goes, you can learn this terrible knowledge, or you can have your memory erased. You press that, maybe there's a situation like that.
Alright, let's see what other evidence I've got. I've got a suggestion that, in Ncuti's era, the TARDIS doesn't get furniture because it doesn't want, the seats or whatever to get in the way of the Doctor and the TARDIS's sex games. And you might be like, okay, that's a bit of a reach, whatever.
I would say that's a bit of a reach.
But, let's talk about the giggle. When Tennant is showing Ncuti the various changes to the console, he lists a bunch. He's like, there's that thing that does that, does that, and then he gets to one thing and he slows down and he's like, he says, that does, things. And he says it as if it's something to be hidden, and it cuts to Donna immediately after he says that, implying that he is hiding stuff from her. Though I guess it could be related to getting Paradox children of their companions working in the gears of the TARDIS. That's a theory we'll get into another time.
Yeah, that sounds a bit convoluted.
That the TARDIS is powered by child versions of all the companions working in the gears of it.
Yeah, that's an episode in and of itself, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's okay. I won't explain myself because we'll talk about this another time.
Okay.
So, I think it means that it is the new fuck cupboard. The Doctor isn't asexual per se. Their sexual needs are just already fully satisfied. When Donna is telling him to take a break, he seems really broken up that Ncuti might fly off in the TARDIS. And now I understand why he needed to keep the TARDIS. It wasn't the adventures outside of it, it was the sexual adventures inside of it. Don't believe me, bitch? He puts his hand on that panel just after saying that. And then I've got a note saying, okay, very funny, how do you explain every other time he ever uses that control panel? It's just a bunch of switches. And my theory is Ivory needs to flick them in a certain order because no one can know. Oh god, it can't be encountered by mistake. Yeah, basically.
I do have a potential counter to this.
What?
The entire console is very severely damaged by mere drops of coffee spilt upon it. I imagine splooge would be a lot more damaging to the console.
That is a powerful counter-argument.
It would. And I imagine a lot harder to remove. Admittedly, we don't know what alien splooge is like, so...
True. But, if Time Lords are basically humans, then I feel like... I don't know. There's a bit where Jodie, and I'm going to try and not be spoilery about this, but Jodie has an item that she says to the TARDIS... She puts it in a hole in the TARDIS and says, "Put this deep inside you," and make sure it's somewhere I can never find. So that Now, why does she have a hole that you can put something deep inside the TARDIS?
To hide your shameful secrets?
It's because I think the Doctor is, injecting their Time Lord semen into this hole, and they want it to go deep inside the TARDIS. And that's why that hole exists. Not only that, but I think that this means that the TARDIS and the Doctor may have had a child. Who
Are
or
you
what?
inferring that is the mother of Susan?
Jesus. It could all connect. I don't know who this child is. This is a hanging question that I need answered. So, mother of Susan? Maybe. That would make sense. The Doctor's granddaughter. Yes. You are wise.
In the ways of science.
Now, shall we give a believability rating to this?
Oh, 100% I now believe the Doctor
Is in a sexual relationship with the TARDIS.
Yes.
Calls them sexy. has a hole for putting something
Fortunately,
deep inside
this
of it.
one is a consensual sexual relationship because the Doctor did seem a bit loose on the laws of consent when it came to Kamelion.
Yeah, which I think is good. The Doctor's learnt.
Grown as a person.
Okay. Let's see what else we've got to cover. Right, so this is basically a Susan theory, but I'm basically trying to collect data on, right, you know how the Doctor somehow survives loads of scraps, and it's like, how have you survived this long? And everyone's like, of course, he's the main character of the show, it's plot armor. But in universe, how does he survive all these things?
I put it down to alien physiology being a lot more robust.
Okay, but there are things that happen in the show that the Doctor shouldn't survive, and you can put a numerical number on it. Now, a lot of things it's hard to put a numerical number on, like, you know, the chances of you getting saved by some random thing, like, you know, like, how do you put a number on that? But I think, like, stuff like, I guess you haven't seen it yet, but at some point the Doctor and their companions just, like, end up in space. They get teleported to a random part of space.
But no spacesuit or anything?
No spacesuits. And, like, they do survive. There is a surprising thing that happens that it seems by entire coincidence that
Are they picked up by another ship?
Yes.
Is that a Douglas Adams reference?
Point being, that's right, that's being generous here. 99% chance that they would die in that scenario.
I'd say it's many times higher than that, but yes.
Exactly, so we're being generous here and just putting it at 99. Now, if I find any more examples of the Doctors encountering stuff like scenarios where you can actually put a number on the likelihood of them actually surviving, accumulate them all together. I think even before I've even worked out all of this, and I've got a lot of notes on this, but I think ultimately we all know that there will be instances where we can basically say for certain that unless there is some sort of someone, a guardian angel for the Doctor,
yes,
then the Doctor 100% should have died. There is no sense that the Doctor should have lived this long, unless we're just looking at one of these ultimate many parallel worlds where this is the one where the Doctor survives all the time. So, how does the Doctor survive, like, being in space and all these other times, even the ones we can't put a number on? We know that there's so many situations that the Doctor should be dead. I think the Doctor must have a guardian angel, and I think that guardian angel is Susan, who thinks that, who's taking her revenge on the Doctor, and death is too good for the Doctor. And now I think that Susan, like, ultimately, it's, while Susan is the mechanism whereby the Doctor gets saved, it is the TARDIS who is ultimately the guardian angel, who has picked a sort of timeline where the Doctor has a guardian angel. So if it's not Susan, then it would have been someone else. But the TARDIS picked a timeline where Susan ends up being the one who constantly protects the Doctor from permanently dying.
In order to suffer more.
Yes, so I've got a bunch of notes on the likelihood of death. This podcast is getting a bit long, so I don't want to go on about this, but so we can cover this another time. But why is the Doctor? What's up with this plot armor? It's got to be Susan. Thanks to the TARDIS. Give me a number. Tell me it's 100.
I'll go 50-50.
50-50. Explain yourself.
I just like the idea of that the Doctor is being saved by an extraterrestrial force just so he could suffer more. But maybe it's because Sutek wants him to live.
What's Sutek's power in this instance? The only thing Sutek does is...
God of Death power. That's what he seems to do the most. He is still a god. He might have other...
Yeah, we say God of Death, but the thing that Sutek has done most is bring so much life into the world. Every time the Doctor goes to a new place, Sutek's like, yeah, I'll make a new Susan Triad here. So the God of Death is like the God of life, really. But how is Sutek protecting the Doctor?
It's not so much protecting, more not allowing him to die yet.
How? What power does Sutek have there? They can bring death and life, but by giving birth, not by prolonging.
Maybe the Doctor does die, just creates another version of the Doctor. I'm just throwing this out, I don't know.
So Sutek not only creates Susan Triads, but creates Doctors.
Yes, but technically that would well, he's already dead, why would I make him suffer?
But
or maybe the Doctor is on the point of death and just gives him enough life to suffer more.
I feel like the companions remember this. So Sutek would basically, if the Doctor dies, Sutek will have to kill the companions as well and create new Doctor and companions and just put them back where they were before, and the TARDIS will go along with this because it's like, sure, whatever, Doctor's still about, they'll pilot the TARDIS. And I can sort of see that the Sutek
I did just come up with this on the fly.
Sutek's able to create life. I think this is a separate theory to the Susan theory, but right, so what's the percentage chance do you think that the Doctor does
not
have
a high one.
Guardian Angel?
Well, I did say 50-50, but I was just...
Not even Susan, just a Guardian Angel, someone protecting the Doctor from ever fully dying.
Yeah, I'll go 50-50, because it is surprisingly robust. Or maybe the Doctor is his own Guardian Angel, it's just going back in time and putting things to save themselves.
I guess that is true. That's what we refer to as beekeeping. And now you know why I call it beekeeping.
Oh, yes.
Because the Doctor is called Dr. Bees, which is proven in the story. And he even refers to beekeeping in that very story where we find out his name is Dr. Bees. But that is a thing we will get to at a future date.
That is, yes.
Although I have a video on that you can look up. Anyway. I believe that is everything. Let's have a look, see if there's anything more that I wanted us to talk about. I just have a note of talking about Susan in general. I'm sure I've added stuff about Susan, but I think we've probably chatted a bit much today.
Yes.
I'm very happy. I thought we were going to cover so much more ground, but...
We're having so much fun.
We're having so much fun. And whereas the first time we recorded this, you were kind of just a guest of the show.
Yes.
You have clearly become an essential part of this.
Yes, I am the one who stole the show, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to have this amount of chemistry with anyone else. I need you, oh God. So,
why, there you.
We'll see you next time for more Matt Smith related theories.
Check out our various OnlyFans. We don't have
yet.
Yes, you can check out Lucy the Human Toilets at /OnlyFans.
Alright, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So long, suckers. Oi! Alright, fuck off all of you. See you next time.
I think we just killed our audience. Fuck J.K. Rowling.
Fuck J.K. Rowling. Fuck your mum. Fuck your dad.
Fuck Donald Trump.
Fuck Donald Trump.
Fuck Elon Musk.
And, fuck me.
that and go onto her OnlyFans, if you can find it.
Yes, my definitely real OnlyFans.
Yes.
See you next time, folks.
Please come back.